Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My Karen sister-in-law ate my dinner, so I kicked her out. After that, military revenge served hot. And after that, try to make fake rules against me? Let me play your game my way. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to eat anyone's dinner. But what if I'm pregnant, Reddit boy? You better not be. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My Karen sister-in-law ate my dinner, so I kicked her out. My husband's sister moved in with us after she had a major argument about the baby's name. They're expecting and she's 7 months in. She's known to be picky and refuses to eat what we normally cook. We only cook her favorite food, which I can't eat. Allergies, yay. Every day at dinner, I have to figure out what to eat since she only eats food that I'm allergic to. Last night, my husband agreed that he'd cook for her, then he'd cook for us separately. I got home after a long day at work and found out that sister-in-law convinced my husband to only cook the meal she wanted and cancel on the meal he and I planned to have. I saw them eating together in the kitchen. My husband apologetically said his sister convinced him to eat with her and not cook the meal I wanted us both to have. I said it was fine, then went to order some food from the restaurant. I went to take a shower and did some work on my laptop. Then I came downstairs to find my order placed on the kitchen counter. It was open and someone ate the majority of it. I turned around and there was sister-in-law standing there saying that she woke up hungry and couldn't resist the smell that was coming out of the box. I lost it and yelled at her, asking why did she do this? But she said that she did save me some, which isn't even true because there was only some rice and dressing. We started arguing and I told her I couldn't take this anymore. I told her to pack her crap and leave first thing in the morning. She began crying and my husband got involved and defended her up and down, repeatedly saying that she's pregnant and she's eating for two basically. He suggested I go make myself something quick from the fridge and just let it go, but I refused and a bigger argument ensued. Am I the jerk for kicking her out over this? Not the jerk. And you don't have a sister-in-law problem, you have a husband problem. Don't get me wrong, your sister-in-law sounds like a spoiled, selfish, and entitled piece of work, pregnant or not. But your problem is that your husband is more concerned with her health and happiness than yours. He needs to get his priorities in the right place. Not the jerk. And honestly, I think your husband should go with her. She's not an infant herself. She can make her own food if she doesn't want what everyone else is having. And if she wants more when she's done with that, she can find a way to get it that doesn't involve depriving you of even one meal. You're the jerk. She's pregnant. Can't you show the slightest bit of compassion? Having been pregnant many times myself, I can tell you the cravings are insane. At the end of the day, we're talking about food here. It seems like you don't even care that she's pregnant, and like your husband said, she is eating for two people right now. You honestly sound jealous of your husband's great relationship with his sister. One reason my brother cut me off was because of his new wife. She thought our relationship was weird for all kinds of reasons. Newsflash, us sharing a bed when he stayed over was not uncommon at all. She said he could have stayed on the sofa instead. But if you love someone, you should have no problem cuddling with them to stay warm. Stop being a Karen. I'd give anything to just hold my brother one more time, to look in his eyes and tell him how much I love him. But thanks to his insane wife, that will never happen. Yowza! Sounds like you've got more issues than People magazine. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or sister-in-law? Please let us know. If sister-in-law ate my food, I'd put something special in it that would get rid of her for good. Military revenge served hot. Back in my army days, I was once in command of a unit of about 80 soldiers in Hawaii. Most of the soldiers in my command were great people, happy to do their jobs and take home a paycheck. Hard workers, creative, adaptable to unusual army conditions, and generally reliable. But there was one who was trouble from the start. Gentle reader, meet Private Wiggles. My first awareness of Wiggles came 2 or 3 days after I had taken over command of the unit. We're prepping for a month-long training exercise to Thailand, and Platoon Sergeant Maggie tells me Wiggles might not be able to go, as she just had an outpatient medical procedure. Departure is about a week away, and I have to validate the personnel roster to make sure that we've got logistical support for everyone we're bringing, transportation, food, lodging, etc. So I talked directly with Wiggles and I ask if she's okay to travel and participate in the exercise. Wiggles says it's not a problem, she can handle it. We get to Thailand and set up camp on a Thai army base. 2 days in, and the medical section sends a runner to find me. Wiggles is at our medical clinic, tents with cots and surprisingly extensive medical supplies, laid out with extreme abdominal pain. I cruise over to the clinic tent and the physician assistant, the PA, on duty tells me a couple of things. Wiggles acknowledged recently having an abortion, the previously mentioned outpatient medical procedure, and the PA's examination and testing shows that Wiggles has the single worst case of pelvic inflammatory disease, PID, that he's ever seen. Seriously, this Army PA, who has seen all sorts of crazy crap from soldiers, was emphatically impressed by how bad it was. Wiggles developed PID from failing to get treatment for an STI for a long time, as in she's almost glowing from it. No judgment on the abortion, not everyone is ready to have kids, and the STI-induced PID can be treated with high-dose antibiotics, which the PA has on hand. Not a problem, we've got this covered. Wiggles is released to Sergeant Deb, her section sergeant, who will make sure Wiggles takes her antibiotics and keeps an eye on her for any further issues. Sergeant Deb finds me and First Sergeant Bob about a day later and tells me 2 more things about Wiggles. She's refusing to take her antibiotics and she wants to get out of the Army. I again talk with Wiggles. Me. So, you want out of the Army? You know you have a couple years left on your contract, right? Wiggles. I know, but I'm just done being a soldier and I want to be out of the Army. Me. Okay, I can make that happen. You don't want to be here, then I don't want you here either. But here's the deal, you gotta play by the rules. I can get you out with an honorable discharge, and I'll start the paperwork as soon as we're back in Hawaii. But you need to take your antibiotics, do your job, and be where you're supposed to be. You do your part, and I'll do my part for you. Sound good? Wiggles. Yep, I can do that. Spoiler alert, she couldn't do that. For the rest of the Thailand exercise, Sergeant Deb had to take control of Wiggles' meds and force her to take them. When she could actually find Wiggles, who consistently found someplace else to be. At one point in the next week or so, she accuses First Sergeant Bob of hooking up with her. Easily disproven, as he doesn't have any STIs, and Wiggles has all of them. She was just trying to stir up trouble with wild accusations, I guess. We get back to Hawaii, and I start the process to get her out of the Army, because as much as she's been a handful of trouble in Thailand, I'm thinking it's still easier at this point to kick her to the curb than it is to keep her around and punish her before kicking her out. I was wrong. Even as I start to work on her discharge, she ramps up the stupidity. Here are a few examples. Wiggles gets caught drinking. She was only 19. Wiggles and her husband lied to the on-base housing office and provide forged authorization documents to get her into rent-free on-base housing that they didn't qualify for. Side note, Mr. Wiggles was no winner either. He was about to be dishonorably discharged from his infantry unit for selling illegal things to other soldiers. Wiggles shows up at the infirmary to get treatment for facial bruising. Mr. Wiggles had kicked her while he was wearing his combat boots when Wiggles accused him of cheating on her. Wiggles refuses to show up for work or any unit formation and can't be found anywhere for days. Wiggles slashes all 4 tires on Mr. Wiggles' car, then attacks him when he confronts her. Military police are called and end up taking him in when Wiggles gives a sob story, but he's the one with defensive wounds on his hands, not her. One of my male sergeants uses my open door policy to visit me one day. Tells me he saw Wiggles performing at one of the clubs down in Honolulu the night before, and she had also convinced one of our other female soldiers to come along with her to do the same. Here's a weird one. I get a call from a temp agency asking me if it's okay for Wiggles to continue working through them as an administrative assistant for clients in town. Not uncommon for soldiers to have a second job, but with everything else she was up to at that time, this one just had me going, what? There's more, but you get the idea. At this point, Wiggles' actions are egregious enough that I can no longer just kick her out with an honorable discharge. I put her on notice that she's at risk for a court-martial. I thought that threat might help keep her in line, but she just couldn't seem to stop herself from getting stupider and stupider. It's the old 80-20 problem. 80% of your time is spent dealing with the 20% of your folks who are troublemakers. At this point, I'm wasting a not insignificant amount of time dealing with Wiggles' issues almost daily. I had genuinely, and in good faith, offered her the easy path, but I guess she figured she'd try to burn the place down on the way out, since she apparently thought she was getting what she wanted no matter what she did. I was reminded of what my old platoon sergeant used to say when I was coming up through the ranks. You want to get stupid? Go ahead, but I can get stupider. Cue the revenge. She's causing me daily headaches, so I'm going to bring the pain back to her. Honorable discharge paperwork is out the window, and I lean into the special court-martial process instead. My legal counsel tells me that Wiggles' activities are likely to get her a couple of weeks confinement at most, maybe not even that. She may get a monetary fine, and she'll probably get an other than honorable discharge, potential for a bad conduct discharge, which are worse. But while her actions have been not that good, they also are not that bad. I'm rational enough to understand that. I have a brief chat with Captain Morgan, Wiggles' military defense attorney, about where I'm going with this case. During our chat, I try to be a gentleman and let him know that Wiggles is going to be trouble for him if he's not careful. He gives me a condescending, "This isn't my first rodeo, bud. I'm a big boy and can take care of myself." Fair enough, I tried to warn you. Normally, a soldier getting a special court-martial for peddly crap might get confined to the barracks, restricted to their on-base quarters or something similar for the duration of the process. It's not like she hurt someone, right? However, my military legal counsel drops this little gem in my ear. He tells me Wiggles has met all 5 of the conditions, danger to others, flight risk, etc., required by military law, Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ, to warrant requesting confinement prior to her trial. He tells me, if you can remember these 5 conditions and elaborate on the details at our next pretrial meeting with the military magistrate, you might be able to get her confined to the Navy brig at Fort Island until the trial. I'm a guy who likes to pay attention to sound legal advice, so I do just as he says. A couple of days later, we go in for the pretrial meeting and I run down the list for the magistrate. Boom! Magistrate orders Wiggles to be confined in the brig through the trial. First Sergeant Bob and Platoon Sergeant Maggie go to pick her up from her on-base housing. She won't open the door, but they know that she's inside because they can clearly hear her and Mr. Wiggles getting it on. This is important for later. The Wiggles finish up, she takes her time getting showered and dressed, and finally comes to the door when it pleases her. Off she goes to the brig. The pre-trial processes take up to the next 4 weeks. During that time, I have to deal with Captain Morgan, the paralegals in his office, and various fun things to do with her pending court-martial. Other than that, it's blissfully peaceful. Wiggles chills in the brig for 4 weeks. Seriously, chills. Every time I had to visit, it was freezing in there. I was required to make weekly welfare visits to see if she's being treated well, if she has any needs that aren't being met, etc. Seems weird, but as her commander, I'm still responsible to make sure the brig staff aren't mistreating my soldier. Other going-ons in this time period. Mr. Wiggles fraudulently applies for a car loan and gets a van in their names. Mr. Wiggles is dishonorably discharged and kicked off the island, flies home to wherever the heck he originated from. Captain Morgan asks me to consider an other than honorable discharge and time served in lieu of taking things all the way to trial. My legal counsel advises me to avoid the court-martial and just kick out Wiggles with the other than honorable discharge. After all, he says, she's already been locked up for almost 3 weeks, so the magistrate will probably just give her time served and the other than honorable anyway. See my earlier comment about sound legal advice. My boss, Lieutenant Colonel Ryan, thinks I'm too invested in this case, that I'm no longer objective. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan insists on coming with me to the brig for the next welfare visit. This is 3 weeks into Wiggles' stay in those luxurious accommodations. Among the other BS lines she throws at us, Wiggles tells us she needs to see the dentist about a filling that's giving her trouble, and Motrin just isn't working. At the end of the visit, Lieutenant Colonel Ryan tells the guards about Wiggles' filling, asks if they could give her anything stronger than Motrin, then instructs them to follow up with the dentist. Guard actually laughs out loud at this and says, "No sir, Motrin is the best we can do in the brig. And that other thing? For the last 2 weeks, she's been telling anyone with ears that she wants to try getting her wisdom teeth pulled before she's kicked out. She doesn't have a problem with any fillings." It was hilarious to watch Lieutenant Colonel Ryan's face go from obvious concern for Wiggles' well-being to outright fury, and the next words out of his mouth were, "That jerk lied to me." I make arrangements with Captain Morgan to accept his request for time served and other than honorable in lieu of court-martial. Sometime later that week, I get a call from the brig. Wiggles is pregnant. Remember the scene at her house 4 weeks prior? And they can't keep her confined anymore because of it. She has to be released back to her unit until the court-martial or other actions are complete. Captain Morgan stakes his reputation on Wiggles being a good girl until we can send her back home to Carolina. He'll come to regret that, and he can't say I didn't warn him. We get Wiggles back from her 4-week all-inclusive stay in the brig. I've accepted Captain Morgan's request to avoid the court-martial, and I confine Wiggles to the barracks under supervision for the next 9 days she has left until her flight to Carolina. Immediately, we have another crap show. Wiggles is smoking in the barracks. Not a big deal that she's smoking, it's just not allowed inside barracks rooms. Wiggles is caught with a bottle of hypnotic in her barracks room. She's still only 19. Wiggles slips out of the barracks and runs off for a day when her platoon sergeant gets distracted from supervising her. First Sergeant Bob and Lieutenant Ricky, the executive officer, go to collect Wiggles' belongings from her on-base housing so we can box it up and ship it to her home, and they find that Mr. Wiggles has left behind a bunch of stuff he stole from other soldiers: body armor, military equipment, and some ammunition, smoke grenades, and explosives that he stole during the trips to the range, all lined up right inside the front door where it's impossible to miss. They call me, asking what to do. Me: just collect it all, return the equipment to the central issue facility, and dump the ammo and explosives in the nearest amnesty box. Mr. Wiggles obviously meant for Wiggles to take the fall for having it, Husband of the Year. If we take that bait, Wiggles will be here forever. I don't want that, do you? Lieutenant Ricky: nope, I don't want that either. It'll be like it never happened. In light of all this drama, I bring Wiggles into my office to remind her of her agreement to be a good girl till she leaves the island, with Lieutenant Ricky as a witness in the office to protect myself. Me: Wiggles, you're in violation of your release agreement from the brig. You've been sneaking out of the barracks. You've been smoking and drinking. Wiggles cuts me off. Yeah, and doing all kinds of other things I shouldn't have been doing too. Me: be that as it may, I'm giving you fair warning that you're at risk of losing the deal I made with Captain Morgan. Additionally, you're pregnant again. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but most damage to a fetus from alcohol and smoking will come in the first few weeks after conception. I don't know if you're planning to keep this one or not, but at the rate you're going, this baby's going to be born dumber than you. Wiggles, gaping like a fish, finally picks her jaw up off the floor. Wiggles then bolts from my office and runs down to Lieutenant Colonel Ryan's office at the other end of the building to squeal on me for insulting her, Lieutenant Ricky hot on her heels. She tries to rush into Lieutenant Colonel Ryan's office, but Lieutenant Ricky gets in first and fills him in. Lieutenant Ricky tells me later how it went down. Wiggles is yelling about how I called her stupid. Strangely vanilla thing to focus on considering everything she's done, but you do you, and that she's being mistreated. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan yells at his admin to get Captain Morgan on the phone, now. He goes off on Captain Morgan for his client's crap, tells him to fix this, and makes various threats to Captain Morgan's career. About a half hour later, I get a call from Captain Morgan. Captain Morgan: I can't believe the words I'm hearing from Wiggles. I'm shocked, just shocked, that you would use language like that and call her names. Side note, my mom is an attorney, and I grew up with tales from the courthouse about lawyers using exactly this type of hyperbole. Your Honor, I'm shocked, appalled, and dismayed that opposing counsel would attempt to paint my client in such a light. It's the kind of BS they said when they didn't have a good argument. So as soon as I hear the word shocked, I know I own him, and I immediately cut in. Me: and I bet you're appalled and dismayed too. Captain Morgan, stumbling and sounding slightly confused. Well, yes, of course I am. You can't talk to soldiers like that. I know of a lieutenant colonel, a commander, who called one of her soldiers stupid, and she's no longer in command now. Me: I didn't call her stupid. I informed her of basic biological facts. Not my problem if she takes the news poorly, and arguably, she's not all that smart. Anyway, you called me, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't to warn me about what I said to Wiggles. So what do you want? Captain Morgan: what will it take to prevent you from kicking back our deal? Me: you could get her on a plane tomorrow. Captain Morgan: how about if I get her out of here by Friday? It was Wednesday, and she was due to fly out the following Wednesday. Me: I don't think you can manage that, but good on you if you do. To his credit, Captain Morgan gets Wiggles a flight for Sunday, 3 days early. I print up official orders appointing Lieutenant Ricky as a military escort specifically for her. Lieutenant Ricky drives her to the airport, and the airline desk agent calls me to verify his status when they get to the check-in counter. They give him a special pass to get in through security with her. He stays with her at the gate to make sure she gets on and stays on the plane, then stays on the gate until the plane is in the air. Some boogers are hard to flick. We wanted to make darn sure this one landed someplace else. About a month later, I get a call from the military police about a derelict van in the parking lot with all 4 tires slashed. Guess who it belonged to? It's really kind of sad when I look back on it. I had 2 other soldiers come to me at different points asking to get out of the Army ahead of their contracts. One just didn't want to be in the Army anymore. The other did want to stay in the Army, but had family issues that would be a lot easier to deal with as a civilian. They played by the rules, and I got both of them out with honorable discharges and all the benefits. They even qualified for unemployment. Too easy. Wiggles could have had the same treatment. I told her exactly what I could do for her, then had to shift gears and told her exactly what I was going to do to her. Then I did it. I could have been her best friend on our way out the door, but instead, I ended up owning her and her jerk defense attorney. She did herself out of transition benefits and access to the VA, and picked up a lifelong black mark for employment, all because she couldn't play nice for a few weeks. She decided she wanted to play mess around and mess around games, and we all know what happens next. Am I the jerk for telling my brother and sister-in-law to stop blaming everyone else for my nephew's behavior? My nephew, Dylan, is 16. My brother, Jesse, and sister-in-law, Nicole, suffered years of infertility before they had Dylan. Their pregnancy before Dylan's ended in a stillbirth. Jesse and Nicole were absolutely devastated. They were terrified to try again. We all shared this fear, but thankfully my nephew was born healthy. However, Jesse and Nicole have been so focused on the fear of potentially losing Dylan that they won't tell him no, and they don't enforce any boundaries. They excuse his unacceptable behavior by saying we should just be grateful that Dylan's healthy and here with us. Quick note, practically every adult in the family has recommended therapy for Jesse and Nicole, but they refuse because they say that Dylan is healthy and here with us, so everything is fine and to stop bringing it up. All of Dylan's teachers say that he's a respectful and focused student. Dylan is clearly capable of behaving, but his behavior at home is unacceptable because, unlike school, there are no boundaries or consequences enforced on him. Dylan says words he shouldn't, breaks things, and goes off on his parents until he gets his own way. Nicole asked Dylan to please wash his cup, and Dylan responded with, "How about you go forget yourself instead?" Dylan has left multiple dents in both Jesse and Nicole's car while stealing it. Dylan hasn't even begun driver's ed. Jesse and Nicole insist that bad influence kids are to blame for Dylan's home behavior, and these bad kids are manipulating Dylan to act this way. Jesse and Nicole do not take any accountability for their own enabling and lack of boundaries. Jesse and Nicole arrived at last week's family dinner exhausted. They explained Dylan broke their flat screen after Jesse and Nicole told Dylan to get off his Xbox so that they could use the TV. Jesse and Nicole asked if I could help them out with a new TV, and it would be greatly appreciated. I'm childless and in my 30s, so I'm the most financially well off and usually the one they come to ask for help. I suggested instead that they make Dylan get a job because he will learn to be much more respectful of their property after he experiences the hard work that goes into earning it. They immediately shamed me for being so irresponsible because a kid shouldn't have to worry about keeping a job. And, come on, Rose, be an adult. I replied that if they want to talk about being adults, then they need to stop blaming everyone else for Dylan's behavior when he's a monster of their own making. The other dinner guests immediately sided with Jesse and Nicole because I have no idea about how hard it is to punish or ever make your miracle child unhappy, and I have never known the heartache that comes with years of infertility, and I still could have been stingy without starting a fight and ruining a pleasant family dinner. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. He's a monster of their own making. Ask them how their parents would have treated them if they had pulled the same crap that Dylan does. The whole family needs some serious therapy. They're setting their own kid up to fail. I fear for Dylan as an adult, because what his life is at 16 is probably also his life at 30, and at that point, his parents will be wondering why he won't get a job and lives in their basement. You better open this dang door. This happened back in the day at your local Arizona convenience store. Strange things were definitely afoot here this night. Just after sunset, it's literally like I Am Legend, where all the infected beer run specialists show up. Many think they're slick, but over time I've learned their patterns in order to prevent major loss. This kid comes in the side door. We're shaped like a golden rectangle and have a left and right side door. He walks the joint, eyeballs the place, sees the human-sized stack of 18 packs, then lights up. I'll stop here to tell you that, for safety's sake, our doors lock with a button under the counter. Important info. He asks me if I could look at cigarettes that are behind me, then starts to mention the higher-up ones. I thought this guy may bolt, so I lock the doors, turn around, and I hear a suspicion-confirming thud that reverberated through the happiest parts of my soul. As this man staggers up with a miraculously unscathed 18-pack, he looks at me at first in panic, then anger as the realization sets in. Now I'm probably looking panicked because I didn't initially have a plan past here. Just as I'm about to say something, the man realizes he's still holding beer and winds up to run at the doors. Smack! He runs again while saying, "You better open this dang door," enter malicious compliance. You want me to open the door? I'll open it. I'll open it straight to heck. He makes one last charge, and I press the button to unlock the doors last second. I knew he'd get sent flying, but he flew through this, tumbled so gloriously, better than I could have planned for. The doors flew open as he literally somersaulted, and that 18-pack busted open into a spiral of cans. He stumbled, bumbled, fumbled around, grabbing the cans that didn't go off into their own little spiral, spraying everywhere. All this for a few cans of generic. Again, like I Am Legend, and its book-to-movie adaptation, it's unclear whether I'm the good guy or not. Apparently, I have poor work ethic because I don't want to stay after close. We have this family that always comes in late. I'm talking 6 people, 7 minutes before close, and they take their sweet time, sipping water, not opening the menu, etc. Whatever. I have to serve them, so I do. It's part of the job, albeit one of the worst parts. It's a small restaurant, so come end of day, there's no side tasks. To set the scene, it's me literally sitting on my phone waiting for them to finish. I collect dishes often and frequently. The second I hear a fork hit a plate, I'm getting it. I don't offer refills. If a glass is empty, I take it. I even shouted the orders as they gave them because my line cook creeped out of his hole so he could get the orders faster because he wants to leave as well. It was pretty funny. One lady couldn't decide, so I told her I'll get drinks. 3 different drinks per person, while you decide because I have to get the orders ready. You come in late, you get service, but I'm not fawning over you. I'm not enabling that. After they finally leave, my boss comes up and says, "Oh, thank God they're finally gone." I'm like, "Yeah, they always come so late." Then he pops off. Apparently, he's allowed to be grateful they're gone, but I'm not. He's allowed to be inconvenienced, but I'm not. Whatever, dude. Boss, you know what? If you ever came into her store after hours, she'd serve you happily because she has a good work ethic. Me. I guess the difference between her and I is I'd never be that jerk customer who puts a business owner in a position to stay late because of me. If that's a poor work ethic, I'm okay with that. He didn't know what to say after that. My Aunt Karen doesn't tip, so I refused her Instacart order. I, 23 female, have been an Instacart driver since March of 2020, and it's been a lucrative side business for me. I'm always picky on what batches I accept. Miles driven, the amounts of items shopped, and the overall payout are all important to me. A lot of my earnings are going towards a down payment for a house. My aunt, 37, is a notorious cheapskate, even if it affects other people providing services to her. She will pay what is required, service fees and costs of items, and not a penny more. This includes in restaurants. My mother and other family members are aware of her doing this, but enable it by covering up constantly, like slipping cash to the waitstaff behind her back. I absolutely refuse to go along with it. Not sure if this is relevant, but my aunt doesn't get around that well physically, weight and arthritis issues, so being on her feet for a long period of time is difficult for her. She called up my mother and asked if I was on Instacart. She said no. I was in the kitchen eating lunch. She said that she placed her first order excitedly, since first orders have a promotional deal. Mom asked me to log in, and I did. I can see the map of where an address approximately is, along with a few other things before accepting a batch. It was obvious which one was hers. I told my mom I wasn't taking it and that it was a terrible order. High amount of items, 115, and a 15-mile round trip, and no tip. My mom went off on me, saying that she's family and this should be an exception to my standards. I told her that no tip equals no trip, and that was it. My aunt called my mom almost 30 minutes later, whining that nobody will take her order. I took the phone and told her that I saw the order, and if she doesn't want to appropriately appreciate her shopper, then she can go get the items herself. With that said, I took a much better order and walked out. They're both mad at me and said I'm a terrible person for how I handled things. Am I the jerk? Edit. I didn't expect to get all these responses. Thank you so much. Also, would like to add that I am a shopper that always tries to go above and beyond for my customers. Whenever an item is out, I'm texting customers with pictures of the shelves and offering substitution options. I rarely refund items and customers are happy. My rating is a perfect 5-star at the moment. Edit 2. My pay goes like this. Batch pay is $7 or 60 cents per mile, whichever is more. The rest of what I make is tips. Again, thank you all so much for your responses. Edit 3. Sorry for forgetting to mention this for all the international Redditors out there, but I'm located in the United States, where some service/gig workers depend on tips to survive. Crazy neighbor demands we take down our Halloween decorations. My husband and I moved into this neighborhood about 2 years ago after we got married. We haven't been able to celebrate Halloween the last 2 years due to lockdown. It's our favorite holiday, so this year we decided to go all out. We filled our yard with tombstones and skeletons. All of our bushes and trees are wrapped in fake webbing, the tree closest to the street having a huge 6-foot spider dangling from its limbs. The final touch was a huge rope web that we added extra webbing to fill it out that hangs from our roof all the way down to the street. We got a couple of fuzzy spider decorations to place around the yard. It took us hours to decorate, and we were so excited. My husband looked like a kid in a candy store. Yesterday, while my husband was at work, I heard a knock on my door. It turned out to be my neighbor. He looked absolutely frantic. I didn't even have a chance to ask what was happened when he yelled in my face, "You need to take all this crap down." I was really taken aback. This neighbor has always been very nice to us. I've seen other houses decorate in the past few years, maybe not to this extent, but I know it's not against our HOA rules. I decided to ask if that was his issue, just in case. He looked at me completely dumbfounded and started going off. "Cut the crap! You need to put all this away. My wife has arachnophobia. Your yard practically gave her a heart attack this morning." I kind of messed up here and laughed. I didn't think our purple fuzzy spiders with big googly eyes would even scare the little kids in the neighborhood. "You're pulling my leg, right?" He got in my face and practically stepped into my house. "You're going to scare my wife to death. If you and your husband don't take all this crap down, I'm reporting you. I'm a retired police officer, and I can make this a real problem for you." I started seeing red and getting really uncomfortable because I was completely home alone and my husband wouldn't be home for hours. Even if I wanted to take it down, it would be impossible without his help. Listen, this is our first time getting to celebrate Halloween in our house, and we really put a lot of effort into our yard. None of our spiders even look realistic. Can we please not do this right now? "I don't give a hoot. Take it down or else." He didn't really give me a chance to answer. He just started walking back to his yard. Our decorations are not scary. Other neighbors have even said our yard is cute. We also spent a few $100s decorating it. It would be a huge waste to take it all down. I haven't told my husband yet because I know he's petty and will throw a fit, and probably decorate it with even more spiders out of spite. I refuse to take down our decorations. This is really important to us, and I just want to enjoy my favorite holiday with my husband. Am I the jerk? Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.